You know what keeps me up at night sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I don't know enough. If anything, I feel like I know too much.
Oh, for sure.
We're just living this absolute fire hose
Mm-hmm.
of information, data, opinions, hot takes, fact checks of fact checks.
It's exhausting.
But if you actually stop and ask yourself, okay, what do I know? With like 100% unshakable certainty.
Right.
The list gets terrifyingly short.
It's the paralysis of the modern age, isn't it? We have infinite width, but almost zero depth.
Zero depth.
We have all these data points, but we lack conviction.
Exactly. We're constantly second-guessing. Is this news real? Is this the right career move?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the right person for me? It feels like we're just walking on quicksand. And that's exactly why I wanted to pull this specific deep dive together today.
I'm glad we are.
We're looking at a stack of notes based on the source text, the essence of certainty. And honestly, the mission here is pretty selfish. I want to know if it's actually possible to reach a state of mind where you aren't constantly second-guessing reality.
It is possible,
Mm-hmm.
but the source material suggests we're going about it all wrong.
Okay.
We usually think of certainty as just being confident. I'm pretty sure I locked the door.
Right.
But the concept we're unpacking today, Yaqin, is fundamentally different. It's not just an emotion or a mood. It's described in the text as an architecture of belief.
Yaqin. I mean, I've heard the term before, and that's always just translated as certainty.
Mm.
But looking at these notes, calling Yaqin just certainty feels like calling a hurricane a breeze.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. To really grasp what Yaqin is, you have to look at the linguistic breakdown the source provides.
Okay.
It isn't just knowing. It's specifically defined as the removal of shak.
Shak meaning doubt.
Meaning doubt. So it's the absence of doubt.
Okay, so it's not just having a belief, it's the impossibility of disbelief.
Exactly. But it helps to visualize it as a spectrum. The source lays out a scale of knowledge. It's not a binary switch, where you're either certain or you're clueless.
Walk me through this scale. I like visuals.
Okay, so picture a weighing scale. At the very bottom, you have Zan.
Zan.
This is usually translated as conjecture or assumption.
So like a hunch.
A bit stronger than a hunch. It's when you lean toward believing something is true. Maybe you're 60 or 70% there.
Okay.
You think it's going to rain because the clouds are dark, but you acknowledge the possibility that it might just blow over. You wouldn't bet your life on it.
Got it. So that's actually where most of our daily opinions live. I think this is true, but I could be wrong.
Exactly. Then you move to the middle. This is shak. This is the deadlock, 50-50.
Total hesitation.
The scales are perfectly balanced. This is the state of confusion because the evidence on both sides seems equal. You're paralyzed.
And Yaqin is what happens when you break that deadlock.
Yaqin is when the scale tips so completely that the other side is empty. Doubt becomes impossible. The knowledge settles in the heart.
It becomes stable.
It becomes stable. And actually, there's a fascinating theological point in the notes here that really highlights this definition.
Oh, the point about God, right. I circled that in red because it confused me for a second.
It is surprising at first glance. The source highlights that in Islamic theology, God is described as having ilm, absolute knowledge.
Right.
But God is never described as having yaqin.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, if anyone is certain, surely it's the creator.
It sounds backwards until you understand the mechanism of the word. Yaqin implies a transition. It implies a struggle.
The struggle.
You start with doubt or ignorance or a lack of clarity, and you travel to certainty. You arrive there.
Ah, I see where you're going.
Since God's knowledge is eternal and he never had a moment of doubt to overcome, the term yaqin simply doesn't apply to him. It would imply he was once unsure. So yaqin is a uniquely human experience. It's the prize at the end of a struggle.
I love that framing. It turns certainty from a trait you're born with into a destination you have to earn. It validates the struggle. If you're doubting, it just means you're on the road.
Precisely.
But here's the problem with destinations. Usually you can't really know what a place is like until you get there.
Yeah.
But the source material uses this analogy, the honey analogy, to break down the different levels.
This is probably the most famous analogy for explaining these concepts. It visualizes the 3 Quranic stages of certainty. And it's great because it takes something abstract like faith and makes it sensory.
Okay, walk me through it because I think this clears up a lot of the confusion.
Okay. Level 1 is ilm al-Yaqīn. the knowledge of certainty.
Knowledge of certainty.
Imagine I come to you, and let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that you trust me implicitly. You know I don't lie.
Okay.
And I tell you, I have a jar of pure organic honey in my bag.
Right. I believe you. I have the data. I have the report from a trusted source. I have no reason to doubt it.
Right. You possess the truth, but you haven't engaged with it yet. That's al-Yaqīn. It's informational trust.
Okay.
This is where most believers operate regarding things like the afterlife. They have the report from the scripture, and they accept it as true.
Okay. But I still haven't seen the jar.
Exactly. Which brings us to level 2. Ain al-Yaqīn. The eye of certainty.
Ain't like EYE.
Exactly. This is when I open the bag, pull out the jar, and hold it up to the light.
So now I'm seeing the golden color, the viscosity. I'm not relying on your word anymore. My own eyes are validating the data.
Precisely. The distance between you and the truth has collapsed. You have visual proof, but you still haven't engaged with the essence of the object.
You're just looking at it.
Which leads to level 3.
Ḥaqq al-Yaqīn.
Ḥaqq al-Yaqīn. The truth of certainty. This is when you unscrew the lid, take a spoon, and eat the honey.
The taste. The experience.
The direct experience. Now, nobody can argue with you about the sweetness of that honey because it's now a part of you.
It's internal.
It's no longer information, it's reality.
That is such a clean way to explain it. So applying this to the heavy stuff, like faith, heaven, hell, the source connects this to Surah at-Takathur.
Yes. It's a very powerful, short chapter. It warns people who are distracted by competition and increase. Rat race, basically the rat race of accumulating wealth and status.
Right. And it says something interesting about seeing.
It says, if you only knew with ilm al-Yaqīn, knowledge of certainty, you would see the hellfire.
Wait, unpack that syntax.
Yeah.
If you knew, you would see. That sounds like it's saying strong theoretical knowledge should trigger a visual reaction.
Exactly. It suggests that if your internal conviction, your ilm, was strong enough, it would impact your behavior as if you were seeing the consequences right in front of you.
Right, you don't walk into a burning building if you see the flames.
The source is saying, if your knowledge was real, you wouldn't walk into sin either.
That's deep.
Yeah.
It's saying our knowledge is usually too weak to act as sight.
But then the surah shifts to the future tense. Then you will surely see it with anya Yaqin, eye of certainty.
And that refers to Judgment Day.
When the unseen becomes seen, when the curtain is pulled back.
And then Ḥaqq al-Yaqīn.
The source references Surah al-Waqiah for that third level. That is the moment of entry, the tasting of the reward or the punishment.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit. The source mentions that typically in this life, we're kind of stuck at level 1. We have the ilm, the knowledge, we rely on the report, we don't get to see the angels, we don't see the fire. Prophets get Ḥaqq al-Yaqīn.
Right.
Like Moses speaking to God or Muhammad seeing paradise on the night journey. But for the rest of us, isn't that a bit unfair? We're expected to have this rock-solid certainty, but we're denied the visual proof.
That is the core challenge of the unseen, isn't it? But the source argues that we aren't actually denied the proof, we just look for it in the wrong places.
Okay.
We want a miracle to drop from the sky, we want the jar held up to our face, but the Qur'an points to a different methodology for building certainty.
So let's get into the how-to. Because if I'm at 70%, I'm in Zan, or I'm stuck in shock, doubt. How do I climb the ladder without seeing a miracle?
The text outlines 3 specific methods. The first is tafakkur, or deep reflection. But it's not just sitting in a dark room thinking about your feelings. It's reflection on the natural world as a deliberate argument.
This connects to the story of Moses and Pharaoh in the notes.
Yes, in Surah Ash-Shu'ara, it's a brilliant rhetorical moment. Pharaoh challenges Moses. He asks, and what is the Lord of the worlds?
He's looking for a definition? Or maybe he's mocking him?
Both. And Moses doesn't give him a philosophical essay. He doesn't say he is the first and the last.
They don't give a treatise.
No. He points to physical reality. He says, the Lord of the heavens and the earth and everything in between, if you would be certain.
If you would be certain. That's the key phrase.
Moses is saying, the evidence you're asking for is literally hanging above your head. The complexity, the order, the sheer scale of the cosmos, that is the honey jar you can see. The source argues that the physical universe is a book of signs designed to move you from assumption to certainty, if you actually pay attention.
So nature is the first method, is the external evidence. What about the second? This one stood out to me because it feels almost like a riddle. The test of the intellect involving the number 19.
This is from Surah al-Mudaththir. It's a fascinating case study in how God filters people based on their mindset. The Qur'an mentions there are 19 angels guarding the fire.
Just 19. And the source mentions the skeptics at the time, Abu Jahl and his crew, immediately started mocking this.
Immediately.
They were like, only 19? We have hundreds of men. We could take them in a fight.
Exactly. They treated it like a military head count. They got stuck on the literal number. But the source explains that the Qur'an explicitly calls this number a fitna, a trial.
How is a number a trial?
Because it acts as a mirror for your intent. The source explains that for the people of the book, the Jews and Christians in Arabia at the time, the number 19 corresponded to prophecies in their own scriptures.
Oh, interesting.
So when they heard it, their ilm, knowledge, went up. It confirmed the authenticity of the source.
Okay, so for them, it was proof because it matched their data.
Right. For the believers, it increased their faith simply because they trusted the speaker. They didn't need to know why. They just accepted the what. But for the skeptics...
The skeptics got stuck.
The source says they got lost in why.
Why 19? Why not 20?
This doesn't make sense. They missed the forest for the trees.
Worse. They missed the reality of who was speaking because they were too busy nitpicking the details of what was said.
Precisely. The source argues this is a trap for the arrogant intellect. If you want to find a reason to disbelieve, God will give you a detail you can stumble over. But if you want truth, that same detail confirms it.
It separates those who quibble from those who trust. That's a heavy concept. That the evidence itself changes based on the state of your heart.
Indeed.
Okay, so we have reflection on nature, and we have intellectual humility. The third method seems the most kinetic.
Yes. Action. There's a profound maxim quoted in the text from Luqman the Wise to his son. He says, "Action cannot be performed except with certainty, and whoever weakens in his certainty weakens in his action."
It sounds like a feedback loop.
It is. We often think, I need to feel certain before I act. You know, I need to feel spiritual before I pray.
Or feel generous before I give charity.
The source says, no.
Yeah.
You act to become certain.
Behavioral activation.
Exactly. The act of worship itself generates the spiritual state. You don't wait for the feeling, you do the work, and the feeling follows the action.
So it's not fake it till you make it.
It's practice it till you realize it.
That's really empowering because it takes the pressure off. You don't have to feel holy to start. You just have to start.
And that consistency builds the Yaqin.
So let's assume someone does this. They reflect, they trust, they act, they reach a level of Yaqin. So what? Does it just mean they sleep better at night? What's the practical utility of this in the real world?
The source calls these the fruits of certainty. It argues that certainty changes your character fundamentally. And the first fruit is massive, leadership, or, in the text, imāmah.
How does certainty make you a leader? I usually think of charisma or strategy.
Those help, but the source references Surah As-Sajdah. It talks about the Israelites, but it establishes a universal rule for spiritual leadership. It says they were appointed as leaders who guide by God's command only when they possessed two specific traits.
I'm guessing certainty is one.
Yes. When they were patient, ṣabr, and were certain, Yaqin, of our signs.
Patience and certainty. Ṣabr and Yaqin.
Think about that combination. If you have patience but no certainty.
You're just suffering. You're enduring pain, but you don't know why. You have no purpose.
Exactly. And if you have certainty but no patience.
You're a visionary who burns out the second things get hard.
Yeah.
You can see the goal, but you can't handle the road to get there.
Correct. Yaqin gives you the vision of the destination. Ṣabr gives you the fuel to endure the journey. You need both to lead.
That is a powerful formula. The notes also mention stability in crisis. I think this is where the linguistic root comes back in, right? The idea of being stable.
Yes. In Surah Ar-Rum, there's a command to the prophet. So be patient. Indeed, the promise of Allah is truth. But then comes the warning. And let them not unsettle you who have no certainty.
Let them not unsettle you.
The Arabic word used there implies lightness, being flighty, easily shaken. The source explains that people without certainty are light.
They're leaves in the wind.
They get blown around by every news cycle, every trend, every panic. But Yaqin gives you weight. It anchors you.
Right.
When the world is shaking, the person with certainty is the stabilizer. They aren't reacting to the immediate chaos. They are responding based on absolute truths.
That distinction between the judgment of the moment versus the judgment of Allah is really clear here.
The source contrasts the judgment of Jahiliyyah, which means ignorance, bias, tribalism, with the judgment of Allah. The person with Yaqin stops seeing religious laws as restrictions or burdens. They start seeing them as the operating manual for reality. They align with them because they're convinced it's the only way the machine works.
So they aren't fighting the system, they're flowing with it.
Exactly.
Okay, we're coming up on the end, but we have to address the twist in the source material, because apparently there's a very dangerous way to misunderstand this whole concept.
Yes. This is a crucial warning. If you get everything else right but miss this, you go off a cliff.
It's about the verse in Surah Al-Hijr. And worship your Lord until there comes to you the certainty, al-Yaqīn.
Right. Now, if you're a bit opportunistic or maybe just lazy, how might you interpret that?
Well, it sounds like a finish line. Worship until you get certainty. So if I meditate really hard and I finally feel super enlightened and totally certain, I can stop praying.
I'm done.
I'm done. I graduated.
That is exactly what some heretical groups in history claimed. They said, we have reached the station of Yaqin, so the Sharia, the rules, the prayers, the fasting, they don't apply to us anymore.
I'm too enlightened to do the dishes.
Exactly. It's very convenient, but the source makes it incredibly clear that this is a complete distortion. In this specific verse, the consensus of scholars is that al-Yaqin does not mean a feeling of conviction.
What does it mean?
It means death.
Death?
Yes. Worship your Lord until death comes to you.
Why use the word certainty for death? That seems, grim.
It's not grim, it's realistic. Death is the one future event that is absolutely 100% inescapable. You can doubt God, you can doubt religion, you can doubt the Big Bang, but you cannot doubt that you will die. It is the ultimate certainty.
That completely flips the meaning of the verse.
Completely.
It's not about reaching a spiritual high and clocking out. It's about consistency until the very last breath.
It emphasizes discipline over emotion. True Yaqin is proven by your ability to keep worshiping, keep struggling, right up until the moment the screen goes black.
You never graduate.
You never graduate from being a servant in this life.
That is sobering. But it brings the whole discussion full circle. We started by asking how to find certainty in a confusing world.
And we found that it's a progression. You start with the report ilm, you validate it through reflection and action aim, and you aim for the experience hack.
But there's one final thought from the source that I want to leave the listener with. It's about that eye of certainty again.
The eyesight of the heart.
The source suggests that seeing the truth and al-Yaqīn isn't reserved for the believers.
No, it's universal. The source points out that on the day of judgment, everyone, the believer, the skeptic, the staunch atheist, everyone will see the truth with their own eyes.
The hellfire, the paradise, the reality of God.
It will be undeniable.
So certainty isn't a possibility. It's an inevitability.
Exactly. The question isn't if you will arrive at certainty. You definitely will. The question is when.
When?
Will you arrive at certainty voluntarily in this life through insight, reflection, and trust? Or will you wait to arrive at certainty involuntarily in the next life through sheer sight when it's too late to use it?
Insight now or eyesight later? That's a choice we make every day.
Indeed. It makes the quest for knowledge a lot more than just an intellectual hobby. It's the preparation for the inevitable.
On that note, we're going to leave you to reflect on your own honey jar. Check your sources, check your actions, and keep climbing that ladder. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.